most exclusive vault of New York's Silver Fang restaurant. A blind billionaire sits across from the woman he believes is his loving wife. His world of silk and shadows is about to shatter. As she leans in with what she whispers is a rare delicacy, pressing something cold and writhing toward his lips, a disheveled street girl crashes through security screaming, "Stop! She's feeding you a snake!" Time freezes. Jeremy Franklin, former Mafia Boss, current investment banking titan, feels the dry scales brush his mouth. In that heartbeat of terror, his tattooed fingers shoot out, seizing the wrist of the woman beside him. And then he feels it. The missing scar. The wedding day mark that should be there isn't. The woman sitting inches away, holding a venomous serpent to his face, is not his wife. What happens next will expose a conspiracy that reaches the highest levels of his empire, and the homeless girl who saved his life will become the only eyes he can trust. Drop your city in the comments. Let's continue. The holding room beneath the Silver Fang smells like old money and older blood. Jeremy Franklin knows this because 12 years ago, when his eyes still worked, he had the walls soundproofed with materials that trap scent as effectively as they trap screams. The woman who wore his wife's face sits across from him now, zip-tied to a chair bolted into concrete. She hasn't spoken since his security team dragged her down here. Neither has he. Jeremy stands with his back to the reinforced door, his milky eyes fixed on nothing, his breathing measured. Alex Fati, his lead enforcer, saw the shift's weight from foot to foot somewhere to his left. The man reeks of nervousness and gun oil. "Boss," Alex starts, his voice pitched low. "We ran her prints. Nothing in the system. No ID in her purse. Just cash. A lot of cash." "How much?" $73,000, $100 bills. Jeremy's jaw tightens. Sienna never carried more than her credit cards, and a single emergency 20 folded in her phone case. She used to joke that paper money was for criminals and tourists. He moves toward the woman, his hand trailing along the edge of the steel table between them. His fingers read the space like braille, the faint vibration of her elevated heartbeat transmitted through the bolted furniture, the microcurrents of air displacement that tell him she just tilted her head. "You're very calm," he says quietly. "No, for someone who just tried to murder a blind man with a reptile." Her voice, when it comes, could be Sienna's twin. It is Sienna's twin. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Jeremy, it's me. That crazy girl, she's lying. Baby, please." Hands on the table. Silence. "Now." The zip tie creaks as she complies. Jeremy rounds the table, his fingertips skating across the cold metal surface until they find her wrists. She flinches at the contact, and that alone is wrong. Sienna never flinched when he touched her. He begins with the left hand. The bones are similar, delicate radius and ulna, the familiar length of the fingers. But the skin is different, too soft, too uniform. He traces the pad of his thumb across her palm, feeling for the landscape he has memorized over 3 years of marriage. "Sienna has a scar," he murmurs, and almost to himself. "Right here." His finger stops at the base of her left thumb. "She got it the day we got married. The caterer's daughter was playing with broken champagne glass in the kitchen. Sienna grabbed it out of her hands before she could cut herself. Needed 4 stitches. The woman's pulse hammers against his fingertips. "Where's your scar?" It healed. Plastic surgery. I was self-conscious." He moves to her right hand, faster now, more clinical. The webbing between thumb and forefinger should have a rough patch where Sienna burned herself on the espresso machine 6 months ago. Smooth. The knuckle of her middle finger should have a permanent bump from the time she punched a wall during an argument about his refusal to see a corneal specialist. pristine. But it's the calluses that seal her fate. Sienna played classical piano, not professionally, but obsessively. Every morning at 6, before the markets opened, she would sit at the Steinway in their penthouse and play Chopin until her fingers ached. Years of that discipline had left her fingertips with distinctive ridges of thickened skin, battle scars from pressing ivory and wire. This woman's fingertips are as soft as a baby's. Jeremy releases her hands and steps back. The revelation settles over him like a shroud, suffocating and absolute. For 3 days he has been living with a stranger, sleeping beside a stranger, trusting a stranger. Where is she? His voice could cut glass. Jeremy, where is my wife? The room absorbs his shout. Alex's hand moves to his holster, a sound Jeremy recognizes instantly. But the woman in the chair laughs, a brittle, though a crystalline sound that splinters the tension. You really can't see, can you? Her accent shifts, losing Sienna's soft Midwestern vowels for something sharper. East Coast bred. All that power, all that money, and you can't even see the difference between us. She always said you were arrogant. Serafina. The name lands like a blade. Jeremy has heard stories about Sienna's twin sister, the one who went to prison for securities fraud, the one Sienna stopped visiting after she tried to manipulate their dying father into changing his will, the one who swore she'd burn down everything Sienna built. Where is she? Jeremy repeats, each word carved from ice. Serafina's smile is audible in her voice. Somewhere cold, somewhere dark, somewhere you'll never find her, unless you do exactly what I say. Sign the transfer papers, Jeremy, and walk away from Franklin Investment Bank. Disappear. And maybe, I'll tell you which shipping container she's locked in before the air runs out. Jeremy turns toward Alex. Get the girl, the one from the restaurant. Diana. Boss? The girl who saved my life sees things I can't. It's time I started listening. Diana Gonzalez smells like the New York subway system. Wet concrete, stale urine, and the particular metallic tang of desperation. Jeremy catches the scent the moment Alex brings her into his penthouse office, 3 floors above the holding room, where Serafina still sits in strategic silence. The girl is trying not to breathe too loudly. He can hear the deliberate shallowness of her inhales, the way she's holding herself rigid to avoid making noise. She's terrified, but not of him. She's terrified of the clean floors, the leather furniture, the invisible price tags hanging on everything she might accidentally touch. Sit, Jeremy says, gesturing toward the chair across from his desk. She doesn't move. It's a $3,000 chair, Alex offers helpfully. Imported from... She doesn't care what it costs, Jeremy interrupts. She cares whether sitting in it will get her thrown back onto the street. He softens his voice, angles his head toward where he estimates her face to be. You saved my life tonight. The least I can do is offer you a place to sit. Fabric rustles. Weight settles into leather with the lightness of someone who has learned to make themselves small. Jeremy moves to the liquor cabinet, pours 2 fingers of bourbon into a crystal glass, then thinks better of it and grabs a sealed bottle of water from the mini fridge instead. He sets it on the desk, sliding it in her direction. Unopened, he says. So you know it's safe. A pause. Then the crack hiss of a breaking seal. She drinks like someone who doesn't know when the next drink is coming. Tell me what you saw, Jeremy says. All of it. Start from the beginning. Diana's voice is younger than he expected. 16, maybe 17. Hoarse from screaming in the restaurant, but there's steel underneath the rust. I sleep in the alley behind the Silver Fang sometimes, she begins. The kitchen vents blow warm air, and the sous chef, Miguel, he leaves bread in a box by the dumpster on Tuesdays. Last night, I was there when a black Mercedes pulled up. Weird time for deliveries. It was almost midnight. Jeremy leans forward. You remember the license plate? New York commercial plates. JKL-7734. And I write down every plate I see. You never know when someone's looking for a car. Alex's pen scratches across paper. The man has worked for Jeremy long enough to know when to document without being asked. A woman got out, Diana continues. Looked like money. Wore it like armor, you know? Designer coat. Hair that cost more than I've seen in my life. She met a guy by the service entrance. Tall. Dominican, maybe. Gold teeth. He pulled out a red case, the kind you'd carry expensive cameras in, and opened it for her. The snake, Jeremy says. Biggest one I've ever seen. Red with black patterns. It looked angry. The guy was telling her something about feeding times, handling it, where to strike for maximum venom. She paid him in cash, counted out hundreds like they were singles. Jeremy's hands tighten on the armrests. Sure, you saw all this from where? Behind the dumpster, 20 feet away maybe. They had a phone flashlight going. I could see her face clear as daylight when she smiled at that thing. It wasn't a normal smile, mister. It was the kind of smile people get when they're imagining something bad. The room goes quiet except for the ambient hum of the building's ventilation system. Jeremy processes the image. Serafina, his wife's identical twin, purchasing a weapon in an alley, while Diana watched from behind garbage, unnoticed and unremarkable. Invisible. Why'd you follow her inside? He asks. Diana shifts in the chair. I didn't plan to, but I saw her go into the restaurant through the front, all cleaned up like she worked there. I kept thinking about that snake, about what someone would do with something like that. Then I saw you through the window, sitting there in the dark, and I knew. I don't know how, but I knew she was going to hurt you with it. So you broke through a security checkpoint, risked arrest, possibly getting shot, to warn a stranger. You looked like my dad, she says quietly, before he died, just sitting there, not seeing the danger coming. Something shifts in Jeremy's chest. He spent 12 years in darkness, surrounded by bodyguards and bulletproof glass, and people paid to keep him breathing. None of them saw what a homeless girl saw from behind a dumpster. What's your full name? Diana Esperanza Gonzalez. How old are you, Diana? 17, 18 next month. Maybe. I don't have a birth certificate to check. Jeremy stands, walks to the window he cannot see through, and makes a decision that will change both their lives. Alex, get her a room at the plaza. Put it on my personal account. Full service. Meals, clothes, whatever she needs. He turns back toward Diana's breathing. You're going to stay there until this is over. And when it is over, we're going to talk about what happens next. I don't need charity, Diana says, but her voice cracks on the last word. It's not charity. It's payment for services rendered. Jeremy crosses back to the desk, extends his hand into the space between them. You're the only person in this city who saw the truth. That makes you the only person I can trust. I need your eyes, Diana. I need you to help me find my wife. Her hand, small, calloused, still cold from the night air, meets his in the darkness. Okay, she whispers. Okay. Alex Foddy doesn't return to the penthouse office until 4 in the morning. Jeremy knows the exact time because the building's mechanical systems shift at the hour. Heating cycles down, emergency lighting dims in the stairwells, and the nearly imperceptible hum of the HVAC changes pitch. He's been waiting in the dark, Diana asleep on the leather couch behind him, her breathing finally even after hours of restless fidgeting. The enforcer's footsteps are heavier than usual, slower. Jeremy has known Alex for 15 years, survived 3 federal investigations, and 2 attempted coups with the man at his side. He knows what dread sounds like in expensive Italian shoes. Tell me, Jeremy says before Alex can speak. A briefcase hits the desk with the particular thud of dense paper, file folders, lots of them. I had our forensic accountant pull the last 90 days of transactions, Alex begins. His voice carries the sandpaper texture of exhaustion. Cross-referenced with your personal sign-offs, board approvals, everything that needed your thumbprint or voice authorization. Jeremy's jaw tightens. How bad? $512 million. Gone. The number lands like a physical blow. Diana stirs on the couch but doesn't wake. Jeremy keeps his face neutral, a skill honed through decades of poker games and hostile negotiations. Never let them see you bleed. When? Started small, 3 days ago, right when Serafina must have made the switch. 50,000 here, 100,000 there. Payments to shell companies, consulting fees to firms that don't exist. Then yesterday, when she authorized a wire transfer of $200 million to an offshore account in the Caymans, labeled it as a strategic investment in rare earth mineral futures. I never signed off on anything close to that. You did. Alex slides something across the desk. Paper. Thick stock. Jeremy's fingers find it. A contract. The ink still smelling faintly chemical. Your thumbprint. Your voice signature on the recorded authorization line. Either she's a master forger, or she had access to my biometrics. Jeremy's hands move across the document, finding the signature line, the thumbprint that matches his own ridges and whorls. Sienna and I set up mutual access after I went blind. Emergency protocols. If something happened to me, she could move assets, make decisions. It was supposed to protect the business. It did, Alex says quietly. Just not from the right person. Jeremy stands, paces to the window. His hand finds the cold glass, uses it to ground himself. Below, the city hums with pre-dawn delivery trucks and early subway trains. Somewhere in that sprawling darkness, Sienna is locked in a shipping container, breathing recycled air, while her sister dismantles everything they built. There's more, Alex says, and now there's something worse than exhaustion in his voice. There's fear. Of course there is. The shell companies trace back to holding groups, legitimate looking on the surface, but when you dig deeper, they all connect to the same umbrella corporation. Castellano Ventures. The name hits Jeremy like ice water. He turns from the window, his milky eyes finding the space where Alex stands. No. I had 3 different analysts confirm it. The Castellano family, which means the commission. Jeremy's voice drops to barely above a whisper. She's not just stealing from me. She's delivering my bank to the Mafia Commission. The commission. 5 families that controlled everything from waste management to union contracts, from construction permits to political appointments. Jeremy had walked away from that world 12 years ago, paid his exit fee in blood and treasury bonds, and built a legitimate empire on the bones of his criminal past. He'd made a deal. Stay out of their business, and they'd stay out of his. Serafina just tore that deal to pieces. How many families are in on this? Jeremy asks. We've traced payments to accounts linked to the Castellanos, the DeMarcos, and the Volkovs. 3 of the 5. That's enough for a majority vote. They're using her to do what they couldn't do through force. Take Franklin Investment Bank and fold it into their portfolio. Launder money at the institutional level. They'd have access to pension funds, municipal bonds, everything. Alex clears his throat. Boss, if the commission is backing this play, we're not just fighting Serafina. We're fighting a war machine. They'll have soldiers, judges, police on payroll. Half the city's infrastructure. We can't. We can. Jeremy cuts him off. We will. Because they made one mistake. What's that? They assumed I'd play by their rules, that I'd negotiate, offer settlement, walk away quietly to save Sienna. Jeremy moves back to the desk, his hand finding the files, the evidence of betrayal rendered in paper and ink. But I didn't build this empire by playing fair. I built it by being willing to burn everything down if someone tried to take what's mine. You're talking about going to war with the commission. I'm talking about dismantling them piece by piece. starting with every dollar they stole. Diana's voice cuts through the darkness, sleep rough and confused. How much money did they take? Jeremy turns toward her. $500 million. A low whistle. And you're going to get it back? Every cent. And then I'm going to make them pay interest. He faces Alex again. Pull our assets from every bank they have influence over. Call in every favor we're owed. I want a list of every commission member's business interest, family connection, and weak point, by sunrise. That's in 2 hours. Then you better get started. The first bullet comes through the bedroom window at 6:17 in the morning, exactly 3 minutes after Alex leaves to gather intelligence on the commission. Jeremy is standing near the coffee maker when he hears it. Not the shot itself, suppressed to a whisper, but the specific singing crack of ballistic glass fracturing under high-velocity impact. He drops to the floor on instinct, muscle memory from decades ago when staying low meant staying alive. "Diana!" His voice cuts through the sudden silence. "Get down!" But she's already moving. He hears her roll off the couch, the thud of her body hitting carpet, the scramble of hands and knees as she crawls toward him. The girl has street instincts. Good. The second bullet punches through the reinforced glass, 2 feet from where Jeremy's head was a moment ago. The third takes out the coffee maker in an explosion of glass and scalding liquid. Someone is tracking his movements by sound, adjusting aim based on the acoustic signature of his footsteps, his voice, his breathing. Professional. Very professional. "How many?" Jeremy asks, his voice low. Diana's breath is hot against his ear. She pressed against the kitchen island beside him, small enough to use him as cover. "I can't see anyone. The shots are coming from—" Wait. A pause. The building across the street. 10th floor. Corner window. I see the rifle barrel. 2 shooters, I think. Maybe 3. Jeremy's mind races through the geometry. His penthouse is 42 stories up. The building across the street is only 30, on upward angle shot. Difficult, but not impossible for a skilled marksman. But this isn't about difficulty. This is about access. "That's the Meridian building," he says. "I own it." The implications crash down like the ceiling would if they don't move. His own property. His own security should have flagged unauthorized access to those floors, unless his security isn't his anymore. "We need to leave," Diana says. "Right now. The panic room, behind the bookshelf in my office, is the first place they'll expect you to go." Her hand grabs his wrist, small fingers surprisingly strong. "Trust me. When you've got money, you run to your safe places. When you've got nothing, you run to where nobody's looking." Another shot. This one takes out the hallway light, plunging the already dim penthouse into deeper shadow. Jeremy can hear voices now, not from across the street, but from his own front door. The electronic lock disengages with a chirp that makes his blood run cold. They have his security codes. "Bedroom window," Diana hisses. "Fire escape on the north side. I saw it when we came in." "That's a 42-story drop. If we miss, we won't miss. Come on." She pulls him forward and he follows, abandoning every protocol he's built over 12 years of blindness. No cane, no guide, no carefully memorized floor plan. Just a 17-year-old homeless girl leading him through darkness toward a window he can't see. They move in a crouch. Diana's hand never leaves his wrist. She navigates around furniture he's forgotten is there, guides him past the shattered glass from the coffee maker, and steers him through the bedroom door with whispered directions. 3 steps forward. Stop. Turn left. 2 more steps. Windows right in front of you. Jeremy's hands find the latch. Behind them, footsteps echo in the main room. Heavy boots. Multiple sets. His own security team, or men wearing their uniforms. Either way, they're here to finish what the snipers started. The window slides open. Cold morning air rushes in, carrying the scent of exhaust and distant rain. Diana climbs out first, her movements quick and certain. She's done this before, Jeremy realizes. Scaled buildings, fled through windows, survived by being more nimble than her pursuers. "Metal grating," she says, her voice already outside. "It's solid. Give me your hand." He reaches into the void. Her fingers lock around his wrist and pull. For one terrifying second, Jeremy Franklin, billionaire, former mafia boss, master of an empire, is completely airborne, suspended 42 stories above Manhattan, with nothing but a teenage girl's grip between him and the pavement. Then his feet hit metal. The fire escape shudders under their combined weight, but holds. "Down," Diana says. "Fast. Don't think about the height." They descend in a controlled fall, boots ringing against metal stairs. Above them, Jeremy hears the bedroom window slide open wider. Voices shout. A radio crackles with tactical communication frequencies he recognizes from his own security protocols. "They're following," Diana says, pulling him faster. "But they're slower. They're not used to—" A bullet sparks off the railing inches from Jeremy's hand. "Okay, they're catching up. 7th floor coming. There's a gap in the fire escape. We need to jump to the adjacent building." "How far?" 4 feet. Maybe 5. There's a ledge." Jeremy doesn't hesitate. "You first, then talk me through it." Diana's weight leaves the platform. A pause. Then her voice comes from the darkness to his left. "Okay, take 2 steps back. Run forward 3 steps. Jump when I say jump. I'll catch you." This is insane. This is suicide. This is trusting someone he met 6 hours ago with his life. But his penthouse is full of men who want him dead. His security systems have been turned against him, and the only person telling him the truth is a girl the world taught him to ignore. Jeremy takes 2 steps back, runs forward, jumps when she says, "Jump." Her hands catch him on the other side, and for the second time in 12 hours, Diana Gonzalez saves his life. Kindly hit the subscribe button. If this story is enjoyable to you, thank you for your subscription to my channel. The safe house is a 1-bedroom walk-up in Alphabet City that smells like mildew and someone else's cooking. Diana finds it through a contact she knows from the shelter circuit, a super who looks the other way for cash and doesn't ask questions. Jeremy pays him $2,000 for 3 days, and the man doesn't even blink. In this neighborhood, expensive problems are common currency. Jeremy sits on a futon that's seen better decades, while Diana secures the door with a chair wedged under the handle. His penthouse had biometric locks and pressure sensors. This place has a chain lock and prayers. "You hate it," Diana says, not a question. "I can't hate what I can't see." "You can smell it, though?" And hear the radiator clanking, and feel how thin the walls are. She moves to the window, her footsteps careful on the warped floorboards. But that's why it's perfect. Nobody would ever look for Jeremy Franklin in a place like this. She's right. Alex had sent 3 encrypted messages to Jeremy's backup phone, each one more frantic than the last. Jeremy hasn't responded. Can't respond. Because if the commission compromised his security team, they've compromised his communications. Every phone, every computer, every piece of technology he relies on is a potential tracking device. All he has is Diana's eyes and his own instincts. "Teach me," he says. Diana turns from the window. "Teach you what?" "How to be invisible. You've survived on these streets for how long?" 3 years, since my dad died. 3 years of being overlooked, though not seen. How do you do it?" She's quiet for a moment. Then she crosses the room and sits beside him on the futon, close enough that he can feel her body heat. "First thing you need to understand is that people don't actually see most of what they look at," she begins. "Their brains filter out anything that doesn't fit their expectations. You ever notice how delivery guys can walk anywhere? Construction workers? Janitors? Because they're expected to be there. Exactly. You wear the right clothes, carry the right props, and people's eyes just slide right past you. I've walked through the Plaza Hotel lobby 100 times. Security never stops me if I'm carrying cleaning supplies. Jeremy processes this. Context armor. I guess. But it's more than that. It's about moving like you belong. Not too fast, not too slow. Don't make eye contact, but don't avoid it either. Be boring. Be forgettable. Be the person nobody bothers to remember. Everything I've spent my life not being. Yeah, well, welcome to my world. She shifts on the futon. Your turn. What can you teach me? Jeremy considers. In his old life, he taught people how to read tells in negotiations, how to know when someone was lying across a conference table. Now, he teaches survival through different senses. Give me your hand, he says. She hesitates, then complies. Her hand is small in his, the skin rough with calluses and old scars. He places her fingers against his throat, just above the collarbone. Feel that? The pulse. 68 beats per minute. Steady. That's calm. Now watch what happens when I think about Sienna locked in that container. His heart rate climbs, and Diana's eyes widen. He can hear the slight intake of breath that accompanies surprise. It jumped to 90, she says. Fear, anger, stress. The body betrays what the mouth hides. When you're talking to someone, listening to someone, you need to track those changes. A person's words can lie. Their cardiovascular system can't. He shifts her hand to his wrist. Breathing tells you even more. Fast and shallow means panic. Deep and controlled means they're trying to hide something. Held breath means they're about to act. You can hear all of this if you listen carefully enough. For the next hour, they trade lessons. Diana teaches him how to walk, like someone who has nothing worth stealing. How to use reflections in windows to track pursuers. How to read a room by the positions of the exits. So Jeremy teaches her to identify emotional states by breath patterns, to track multiple people by the distinct rhythms of their footsteps, to know when someone's carrying a weapon by the altered gait. There, Jeremy says when she successfully identifies his elevated heart rate during a simulated interrogation. You just rid me without seeing my face. This is what you do? All the time? Every conversation. Every negotiation. Every moment someone stands in front of me thinking I can't tell they're lying. He releases her wrist. Being blind doesn't make me helpless. It makes me focused. Everything you're learning right now, I've been learning for 12 years. Diana is quiet. Then, the people who tried to kill you this morning, they think you're vulnerable because you can't see. Yes, they're wrong. Very wrong. She stands, moves to the window again. I saw Alex from the fire escape before we ran. He was in the lobby, talking to the men in your security uniforms. He looked, I don't know, stressed maybe. Jeremy's jaw tightens. Did he see you? No. I made sure. Good. We can't trust anyone right now. Not until we know how deep the compromise goes. Not even Alex? Especially not Alex. He's been with me 15 years. Long enough to know all my protocols, all my weaknesses. If the commission wanted to flip someone in my organization, he'd be the highest value target. Diana returns to the futon, her weight settling beside him. So it's just us. Just us, Jeremy confirms. A blind billionaire and a homeless girl against the Mafia. When you put it that way, it sounds impossible. Good, Diana says, and he can hear the smile in her voice. Nobody expects the impossible. That's how we win. The television in the safe house is an ancient box, set with rabbit ear antennas that Diana adjusts until the static resolves into shapes and colors Jeremy can't see. She found it in the closet, buried under someone's abandoned winter coats. It's 10 in the morning, day 2 of their exile, when she turns it on to check the news. What she sees makes her go completely still. Jeremy, she says, her voice tight. You need to hear this. He's at the kitchen counter, running his fingers over a city map Diana transcribed into raised lines using glue and cardboard. Planning routes, exit strategies, some blind approaches to the Franklin Investment Bank. He stops. What is it? Your wife, on TV, except it's not your wife. Jeremy crosses to the television. Diana turns up the volume. A woman's voice fills the cramped apartment, familiar and utterly wrong, like hearing a recording of yourself played backwards. I want to address the rumors directly, Serafina says, her tone measured, sympathetic, perfectly calibrated for maximum credibility. My husband, Jeremy Franklin, is suffering from a severe psychiatric episode. Over the past 6 months, his condition has deteriorated significantly. The stress of managing a multi-billion-dollar institution while coping with his disability has taken a profound toll on his mental health. Diana describes the scene in clipped, angry sentences. She's at a press conference. A podium says Franklin Investment Bank. She's wearing a navy suit. Hair perfect. Looks exactly like the photos you showed me of Sienna. There are reporters everywhere. Cameras. This is major networks, Jeremy. This is CNN. As many of you know, Jeremy survived an attempt on his life 2 nights ago, Serafina continues. What you don't know is that the threat was imagined. A young woman with a history of mental illness entered our private dinner and made wild accusations. My husband, in his confused state, believed her. He assaulted his own security team and fled with this disturbed individual. We've been searching for him ever since. Jeremy's hands ball into fists. The narrative is perfect. Surgical. Every detail twisted just enough to make him sound paranoid, unstable, dangerous to himself and others. She's crying now, Diana reports, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. The reporters are eating it up. I love my husband, Serafina says, her voice breaking in exactly the right places. But I cannot allow his illness to destroy everything we've built together. As of this morning, the board of directors has voted unanimously to transfer operational control of Franklin Investment Bank to me, effective immediately. This is not a coup. This is an intervention. We are trying to save Jeremy from himself. The room seems to shrink. Jeremy can feel the walls closing in, the trap tightening. She's not just stealing his bank. She's rewriting reality itself. How many people are watching this? He asks. Diana checks. Live viewership counter says 3.2 million. It's trending on every platform. Oh God, Jeremy, there's a hashtag. Save Jeremy Franklin. They think I'm the victim. They think you're crazy. A reporter's voice cuts through, asking about the specific nature of Jeremy's mental illness. Serafina handles it with practiced grace, citing privacy laws while implying severity. Paranoid delusions, violent outbursts. A man who sees conspiracies in shadows because he lives in shadows. She's good, Diana says quietly. Really good. If I didn't know the truth, I'd believe her. Jeremy moves to the window, his hand finding the cold glass. Somewhere in this city, Sienna is watching this too. Or maybe she's not. Maybe she's unconscious. Maybe she's already dead. And this entire chase is just Jeremy refusing to accept the inevitable. There's more, Diana says. She's showing documents, medical reports, psychiatric evaluations, all signed by doctors at prestigious hospitals. These look real, Jeremy. They are real. Just not about me. Jeremy's mind races through the possibilities. Serafina was institutionalized twice, once at 19 for a suicide attempt, once at 24 for fraud-related stress. She's using her own medical records, photoshopped with my name. The press conference is ending. She's thanking everyone for their support, asking for privacy during this difficult time, promising that Franklin Investment Bank will continue to operate with integrity and transparency under her leadership. The television goes to commercial. Diana mutes it. She just legitimized herself, Jeremy says. Every business partner, every client, every regulatory agency, they'll all accept her as Sienna Franklin now, which means the real Sienna becomes a problem. A problem that needs to disappear. Exactly. As long as there's confusion, Serafina needs Sienna alive as leverage. But now? Now she's Sienna in the eyes of the world. The real one is just evidence of fraud. Diana stands. How long do we have? Hours, maybe less. She'll want to move fast, before anyone can challenge the medical narrative, before I can surface with proof. Then we need to find her. Now. Jeremy turns from the window. Alex sent another message an hour ago, encrypted. Said he has a lead on the shipping container location. You think it's a trap? Probably. But it's also the only lead we have. He pulls out the backup phone, stares at the screen he can't read. Diana, I need you to tell me something honestly. Or do you think Alex is compromised? She's quiet for a long moment. Then, I think anyone can be compromised if the price is right. But I also think he looked genuinely scared when I saw him in your lobby. Not guilty scared, confused scared. Like he didn't understand what was happening. So maybe he's clean, or maybe he's an excellent actor. Only one way to find out. Jeremy makes the decision. Call him. Tell him to meet us at the old pier in Red Hook. Neutral ground. No backup. If he brings anyone, we disappear. Diana dials. While the phone rings, Jeremy listens to the muted television behind them, imagining Serafina's face on screens across the country. His empire, his reputation, his wife's life. All of it balanced on the word of a girl the world won't believe, and a blind man the world thinks is insane. The phone connects. Diana speaks. The clock is ticking. The uniform costs $60 at a second-hand shop in Queens. Khaki pants, a blue polo shirt with a generic courier company logo, and a reflective safety vest that's seen better days. Diana clips an ID badge to her chest that Jeremy had made by a forger who owed him 3 favors. The photo is deliberately blurry, the name generic enough to be forgettable. Melissa Torres. Birthday March 12, 1998. She becomes Melissa Torres in the bathroom mirror of a coffee shop 2 blocks from Franklin Investment Bank. Hair pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup. Posture slouched just enough to suggest someone working a double shift who doesn't get paid enough to care about anything beyond the delivery manifest. Jeremy waits outside in a stolen taxi, actually stolen, because the rental companies all require documentation that would ping surveillance systems. Diana insisted on doing the infiltration alone. He hated that she was right. Remember, he'd said before she left, boardroom is on the 47th floor, northeast corner. You'll need to access the service elevator from the loading dock. I know. We've been over this 6 times. The bug goes under the conference table, magnetic mount, far end where Serafina sits. You'll know it's her seat, because it faces the windows, and she'll want the power position. I know, Jeremy. I've got this. But standing here now, staring at the gleaming glass tower that is Franklin Investment Bank, Diana feels the weight of what she's about to do. This isn't sneaking into hotel lobbies or dodging security at department stores. This is walking into the heart of enemy territory, carrying evidence that could save Sienna's life or get Diana killed. She picks up the package, an empty box wrapped in brown paper, deliberately oversized to look legitimate, and crosses the street. The loading dock is controlled chaos. Trucks backing in, workers shouting, forklifts beeping their reverse warnings. Diana walks past the dock manager's office with confident disinterest. Just another body in reflective clothing, delivering another meaningless package. No one looks twice. The service elevator is exactly where Jeremy said it would be. She presses the button for 47. then realizes she needs a security card. Her hand goes to her pocket, finds the blank keycard Jeremy had coded using equipment from his old life. He'd promised it would work on any reader in the building. It works. The elevator rises with a hydraulic hum. Diana watches the floor numbers climb and practices her breathing the way Jeremy taught her. Steady, controlled. Fear makes you memorable. Boredom makes you invisible. The 47th floor is executive territory. Thick carpet. Original art on the walls. The kind of silence that costs money. Diana steps out holding the package like it's her only purpose in life, which right now, it is. A receptionist glances up from her desk. "Can I help you?" "Delivery for the boardroom. Someone ordered presentation materials for this afternoon's meeting." The receptionist frowns. "I don't have any notification about, look lady, I just drive where they tell me to drive." Diana shifts the package with practiced annoyance. "You want to sign for it? Or should I take it back and let whoever ordered it deal with the consequences?" The receptionist's expression shifts from suspicion to resignation. "Fine. Boardroom is down the hall, last door on the right. Just leave it on the table." Diana walks. The hallway seems impossibly long, every step amplified by the silence. She counts doors. 3, 4, 5. The boardroom door is unlocked. She pushes it open and finds herself in a space that could hold 30 people. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook Manhattan. The conference table is polished mahogany that probably cost more than Diana has seen in her entire life. She sets the package down and moves to the far end of the table, the seat facing the windows. Her hand goes to her pocket, finds the bug, a device no bigger than a quarter, a military grade according to the black market tech dealer Jeremy contacted. Magnetic mount, 10-day battery, transmits to Jeremy's secure receiver up to half a mile away. She drops to her knees, reaches under the table, and presses the bug into place. It clicks, holds. That's when she hears voices outside the boardroom door. Diana freezes. The voices are getting closer. 2 people, maybe 3. One of them is Serafina. Diana recognizes the cadence from the press conference, that precise articulation that sounds like Sienna but isn't. There's nowhere to hide. The room is designed for transparency, for power displays, not for concealment. Diana's mind races through options. Under the table? Too obvious. Behind the door? She'd be trapped when they entered. The voices are right outside now. Diana does the only thing that makes sense. She picks up the package, walks to the door, and opens it just as Serafina reaches for the handle. They nearly collide. "Sorry," Diana mumbles, keeping her head down, thrusting the package between them like a shield. "Delivery. Just finished." Serafina steps back. She's flanked by 2 men in expensive suits, board members, probably, or commission enforcers dressed like businessmen. Her eyes flick to Diana's face for a fraction of a second, then away. Dismissive. Uninterested. "Watch where you're going," one of the suits says. Diana mutters another apology and moves past them, down the hall, toward the elevator. She doesn't run. Doesn't look back. Just walks with the shuffling gait of someone who's done their job and wants to clock out. Behind her, she hears Serafina's voice. "Gentlemen, let's discuss the final transfer. By tomorrow night, Sienna Franklin will be permanently unavailable. The paperwork will be complete, and this entire unfortunate episode will be behind us." Another voice, male, gravelly. "The container at Pier 79 is ready. Once you give the word, we drop it. No body, no evidence, no problem." Diana's hand trembles as she presses the elevator button. Pier 79, tomorrow night. The elevator arrives. She steps inside. The doors close. Only then does she allow herself to breathe. Pier 79 sits at the edge of the Hudson River like a rotting tooth, all rusted metal and condemned warehouses. the kind of place the city forgot about 30 years ago. Jeremy can smell the salt water and diesel fuel before Diana even parks the stolen taxi 3 blocks away. Alex meets them in the shadow of an abandoned fish processing plant. He's armed. Jeremy can hear the weight distribution in his gait, the slight clink of metal against leather. 2 handguns, maybe 3. A tactical knife. "Boss," Alex says, his voice raw with something that might be relief or might be guilt. "I didn't know they'd compromise the penthouse, I swear to you." "Later," Jeremy cuts him off. "What's the situation?" "Container is already on the pier. Shipping crane is positioned. I count 8 hostiles. Maybe more inside the warehouse. Professional setup. They're waiting for Serafina to give the final order." Diana describes the layout based on what she can see from their vantage point. Single road in, 2 warehouses, both look abandoned. The crane is massive, red, positioned over the water. There's a shipping container hanging from it. Blue, 40-foot standard. If they drop that thing, so nobody's swimming out alive. Jeremy processes the tactical reality. 8 trained killers with clear sight lines and defensive positions. He's blind, working with an enforcer who might be compromised, and a teenage girl whose only weapon is observation. Standard assault would be suicide, so he'll make it non-standard. "Alex, where's the main electrical junction for this pier?" "Warehouse B. Why?" "Because we're going to cut the power. All of it. Then I'm going to show these people what a blind man can do in the dark." Diana understands immediately. "You want to make them blind too?" "Exactly." "Alex, you cut the power on my signal." "Diana, you stay with the car, engine running. If this goes wrong, it won't," she says firmly. "If it goes wrong, you drive away. And you don't look back. Understood?" She doesn't answer, and doesn't need to. They move in silence. Alex splits off toward Warehouse B, while Jeremy and Diana approach from the south. She guides him through the debris field, rusted chains, broken pallets, puddles of industrial runoff. Her hand on his elbow, soft directions whispered into the night air. 50 feet from the crane, Jeremy stops. He can hear them now. The 8 hostiles. Their breathing patterns, the shuffle of boots on concrete, the metallic click of magazines being checked. One is smoking. He can smell the tobacco. 2 are talking in low voices about a basketball game, bored, overconfident. Then he hears the sound that makes his blood freeze. Sienna's voice, weak, muffled by metal walls, but unmistakably hers. "Please, please, I can't breathe." She's in the container. "Now," Jeremy says into the tactical radio Alex gave him. "No, I cut it now." The pier plunges into absolute darkness. Chaos erupts immediately, shouts of confusion. Someone trips, crashes into equipment. A voice yells to use flashlights, but Jeremy is already moving. He knows this terrain now. Diana described every inch, and his mind has built a 3-dimensional map from sound and spatial reasoning. The first hostile is 12 feet ahead, breathing hard, fumbling with something metal. A weapon. Jeremy closes the distance in 4 strides, silent on the balls of his feet. His hand finds the man's throat before the gun can rise. A controlled strike to the windpipe. The man drops without a sound. Flashlight beams pierce the darkness now, sweeping wildly. But they're looking for shapes, for visual targets. They're not listening. Jeremy is. He moves like a ghost through their perimeter. The second hostile goes down from a strike to the solar plexus. The third manages to get a shot off. The muzzle flash blinds everyone except Jeremy. He uses the sound to triangulate, closes in, disarms the shooter with a wrist lock his old combat instructor taught him 20 years ago. Alex emerges from the darkness like an avalanche, taking down 2 men simultaneously. The enforcer might be morally compromised, but his loyalty in this moment is absolute. They fight back to back, Jeremy reading the battlefield through sound, while Alex provides the muscle. Diana's voice crackles over the radio. "The crane! Someone's in the operator's booth!" Jeremy hears it then, the mechanical whine of hydraulics engaging. The container is moving, descending toward the water. "Serafina," he says. "She's operating it herself." He sprints toward the crane's base, his hand trailing along the guide rope to orient himself. Finds the ladder. Climbs. His world is pure sensation. The cold metal rungs, the vibration of the machinery, the desperate screaming from inside the container that's getting quieter as it sinks below the pier's edge. The operator's booth is 20 feet up. Jeremy crashes through the door, his hands finding Serafina's shoulders, pulling her back from the controls. She fights like a trapped animal, all nails and teeth and fury. "You can't see," she screams. "You can't stop this. I don't need to see you to destroy you." He throws her aside, his hands flying across the control panel. Levers, buttons, switches. He has no idea which does what. So he does the only logical thing. He reverses them all. The crane groans, shifts. The container rises instead of falls, pulled back from the river's edge by sheer mechanical force. Serafina lunges at him again, but Alex appears in the doorway, weapon drawn, voice cold as winter. "Don't." She freezes. Below, Diana is already at the container, her hands working the lock mechanism. Jeremy can hear it. The metallic scrape, the breaking seal, the rush of fresh air into recycled space. And then, floating up through the darkness like a prayer answered, Sienna's voice. "Jeremy? I'm here," he calls back. "I'm here." The lights flicker back on. The war is over. The federal agents arrive at Pier 79 within 20 minutes of Alex's call. Serafina doesn't go quietly. She screams about false imprisonment, about her mentally ill brother-in-law, about how the real criminals are the ones arresting her. But the evidence is overwhelming. The bug Diana planted captured everything. Wire fraud, kidnapping, attempted murder, conspiracy with organized crime. The commission members who backed her play disappear like smoke. 2 flee the country. 1 turns state's evidence. The others lawyer up and prepare for trials that will drag through courts for years. Jeremy doesn't care about their punishment. He cares that they're dismantled, their influence over his empire severed at the root. Sienna spends 3 days in the hospital, recovering from dehydration and hypothermia. Jeremy doesn't leave her bedside, except when the doctors force him out. He holds her hand and listens to her breathe, each inhale and exhale. Confirmation that he didn't fail, that the woman he loves is alive because a homeless girl saw what everyone else missed. On the 4th day, he returns to Franklin Investment Bank. The lobby is exactly as he remembers it, the acoustic signature of marble floors and vaulted ceilings, the subtle hum of climate control systems, the particular echo of expensive space. But everything feels different now. Changed, returning to a house you grew up in, and realizing how small it actually is. Diana walks beside him, wearing clothes that actually fit for the first time in 3 years. Navy blazer, pressed slacks, shoes that don't have holes in the soles. She still moves like a street kid, alert, watchful, ready to bolt. But she's learning to occupy space instead of avoiding it. The board of directors waits in the conference room, the same room where Diana planted the bug, the same table where conspiracy was plotted over imported coffee and catered pastries. They stand when Jeremy enters, a gesture of respect that feels hollow after everything that's happened. "Gentlemen," Jeremy says, his voice carrying the weight of someone who has survived his own execution. "I'm making some changes." He doesn't ask permission, he informs. 20% of company profits will be diverted to a new foundation, the Gonzalez Foundation for Youth Services. Every board member will undergo new security vetting. Any connection to the commission, however tangential, means immediate termination. The bank will no longer handle accounts from shell corporations or entities that can't prove clean revenue streams. "You're gutting our client base," one board member protests. "I'm gutting the rot," Jeremy corrects. "We're going to make money the legal way." Novel concept? I know. He introduces Diana as his special advisor on urban development and at-risk youth programs. The title is meaningless corporate speak for what she actually is. His eyes, his conscience, the person who keeps him tethered to reality beyond quarterly earnings reports. Some board members resign immediately. Good. Jeremy wants people who understand that empires built on exploitation eventually collapse under their own corruption. That night, he and Sienna sit in their penthouse. New security, new protocols, new awareness that safety is an illusion, but vigilance is a choice. She tells him about the 3 days in darkness, about how she counted seconds to stay sane, about how she knew he would come. "I heard Diana's voice first," Sienna says, opening the container, and I thought, "Oh, who is this girl?" "Then you called my name, and I understood. You found someone who could see what you couldn't." "She found me," Jeremy says. "I was just smart enough to listen." 1 year later, Jeremy Franklin stands at a food cart on the corner of Delancey and Essex, waiting for Diana to decide between halal chicken and falafel. The cart operator, a man named Bashir, who's been working this corner for 15 years, doesn't know he's serving a billionaire. Jeremy is just another customer, anonymous, invisible in the way Diana taught him to be. "The chicken," Diana finally decides. "Bashir always makes it better on Thursdays." Jeremy nods, lets her order for both of them. They take their food to a nearby bench, the kind of scarred public furniture he would never have noticed in his old life. Though Diana describes the scene, the graffiti on the subway entrance, the kids playing handball against a wall, the woman selling flowers from a bucket, the particular quality of October sunlight filtering through fire escapes. "There's a guy across the street," she says between bites, "sitting on the stoop. He's been there since we arrived. Watching." Jeremy's instincts flare. Threat assessment? Relax, he's sketching. Artist, probably. You're just an interesting profile against the light. He is being drawn by a stranger who sees him as composition rather than commodity. The thought makes him smile. "You know what I realized?" Diana says quietly. "That night at the restaurant, when I warned you about the snake, I was terrified. Not of getting arrested or hurt. I was terrified you wouldn't believe me. That my voice didn't matter enough to be heard." "It mattered," Jeremy says. "It saved everything." "And you know what you taught me? That power isn't about being seen. It's about seeing clearly, understanding what's really happening under all the performance and pretense. They sit in comfortable silence, eating food that costs $6 instead of $600. Around them, the city pulses with the invisible people Diana used to be. Delivery workers, street vendors, subway musicians, the whole ecosystem of human beings that keep New York alive while remaining perpetually overlooked. Jeremy finishes his meal, wipes his hands on a paper napkin, and realizes something profound. For 12 years, he thought blindness was his greatest limitation. But the real blindness was spiritual. He had stopped seeing the city, stopped seeing people, stopped seeing anything beyond balance sheets and power plays. Diana gave him sight, not of images and colors and visual data, but of truth, of humanity, of the world that exists in the margins where real life happens. "Ready?" she asks, standing, reaching for his hand. "Yeah," Jeremy says. "Let's go home." They walk together through the streets of Manhattan, a blind tycoon and the girl who saved his life, both of them finally able to see. Moral lesson. True vision is not about what you can see, but what you're willing to hear. Jeremy Franklin had every advantage: wealth, power, technology, and an army of people paid to protect him. Yet he nearly died because he had stopped listening to the voices that mattered most. The person who saved his life wasn't someone from his world of boardrooms and billion-dollar deals. It was someone the world had taught him to ignore. We all have blind spots. Sometimes they're literal, but more often they're spiritual. Areas where our privilege, comfort, or assumptions prevent us from seeing the truth standing right in front of us. The most dangerous blindness is not physical darkness, but the arrogance that makes us dismiss the warnings of those we consider beneath us. Diana didn't save Jeremy because she had special powers. She saved him because she was paying attention, while everyone else was distracted by appearances. She saw what others missed because survival had taught her to notice what the comfortable overlook. The lesson is simple but profound. Wisdom can come from anywhere, and often comes from the places we least expect. The question is not whether truth is speaking. It's whether we're humble enough to listen when it comes from a voice we're conditioned to ignore. Sometimes the person who sees most clearly is the one the world has taught you not to see at all.